I did want to come in here and introduce to y'all. This is Jason Pillion. He is also my older brother. And so I know when you come to an event like this and you see a coach, and you're like, oh, that's the brother of our family minister who's running this thing. Okay, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. You know, fully know what he's talking about. And no, I promise you, it gets better. And I know that I'm just going to sound like a braggy little sister, and he would never say this about himself. But I just want y'all to know that this man knows what he's talking about. Year after year, I know our family will think, oh, the Sandys, they're not going to be as good this year. Maybe they've lost these players. And again, he produces great players, great teams, going to the state tournament. Jay Wright, you know who Jay Wright is? Legendary basketball coach of Villanova, two-time national champion. Said that one of the best practices that he has ever seen is in the Amarillo High Sandys gym, and posted that on Twitter. Many people who are not related to us will say that he is one of the best basketball coaches in the state of Texas. And so, again, just wanted to kind of preface that, set that up, that he is not just my brother, but a great dad, a great man, and a great coach. And so I'm excited for y'all to hear from him.
Thank you. Did you get that on tape? She's never said such things, so I want evidence. I want evidence. How's the weekend been? I think this is awesome. I think this is absolutely a wonderful thing that Pioneer Drive's doing. So kudos to Pioneer Drive leadership that's putting this on. And kudos to you for giving your time and investing in a weekend to grow. The enemy is alive and well and prowling around and is coming after families. And as evil and disgusting as he is, it's a brilliant move, because if you can attack families, then you can attack pretty much every institution that exists. When we're healthy, when our families are healthy, churches are better. Churches are stronger. As a school teacher, when parents are doing their job, education, schools are better. Those of you that have a business, you have better employees. You have better bosses. You have better leaders. Like everything, our government would work better. Like everything will be better if families were stronger. So it is a brilliant move by Satan to come hard at families and see what they can do, from breaking them up to distracting them, to making them not think that your role is significant and important. And so kudos to you for investing in good soil. It's a great weekend. I hope it's the first of many that y'all continue to do, first annual of many of these things. I think it'll just continue to grow. This is youth sports, and we're going to get to it, but I have a huge heart for fatherhood. And so for the dads in the room, I just want to encourage you, like, you're the X factor. And that's not anti-mom, and that's not anti-female, and all the backtracking apologies that we've seen that we have to make in 2024 to say something positive. But she mentioned we played in the state tournament this past season. One of the strengths of our team is we shot the ball extremely well. From a great three-point shooter would be considered 40% or better. Our team shot between 38 and 39% as a team on the season, so it was one of our strengths as a team this year, is how well we shot the ball. We got to the Final Four. We're playing the team that eventually won it. And they were 6'8", 6'9" inside, two Division I bigs that we were having to defend. And we had a size disadvantage. I was very concerned about how we would rebound the basketball. We were plus 11. We dominated the glass. I was concerned how we would guard a very high-octane offense. They had 13 points at halftime. I was concerned at how we would take care of the basketball. We did an average job. 14 turnovers, not great, but it's good enough to win a game like that. How we could execute offense, we executed it great. We shot 1 of 21 from the three-point line. That's less than 5. We were 4-point-something% from the three-point line. With 2 minutes to go, it's a 4-point game. We had no business being in the game from a shooting perspective. That's how great we were at everything else that we did that night. We couldn't make a shot. And nothing else mattered. And And the reason I tell that story is I kind of relate it to families. I feel like that's kind of how we're trying to do things with families. Like we're trying and we're busting, and it's not about even how hard we're working or even what we're trying to do. But the reality is, if dads aren't doing their jobs well, it's like 4% at the state tournament. It's going to be an uphill battle, and you'll win some battles. I mean, we had some great stretches in that game, but we couldn't win the whole thing because we left one of our best weapons in Amarillo, and we didn't take it with us. And that's how I kind of feel like dads. Like it doesn't matter what data you look at. When dads do their job well, families work better. It crosses every sub-pop group that socioeconomic doesn't matter. Race doesn't matter. Where you live, rural, urban, none of those things matter. When dads show up and dads do well, kids do better. And so that's just a challenge. And the reason I say that is I feel like kind of in our world, dads are falling to the wayside. Fatherless homes, obviously, but because there's been a lot of hurt, I mean, statistics say we got people in this room that grew up in a situation like that, where a dad wasn't there, a dad wasn't what he was supposed to be. And as a result of that, you know the wounds and the baggage that you've had to work through and carry. And so because it's a sensitive subject, a lot of times we don't want to talk about it. And we got the best weapon. We're leaving our jump shot at home. We got one of our best weapons that we aren't emphasizing enough. So I just want to encourage you, dads. I'm glad you're here. A kid needs a great mom, and a kid needs a great dad. And when mom and dad do their jobs well, then your kid's got a chance. And as I know, next door is a great one about being anxious and all that. And I think there's a lot of things in this world that scare us to death. But I want to encourage you that when you do your job well as mom and dad, then you give that kiddo a great advantage as he goes throughout the rest of his life. All right, let's get into youth sports. Youth sports. You know, I talk about this a lot with my friends. I have lots of opinions. An hour wouldn't do it, do all my opinions. And we talk about a bunch of stuff. And here's the reality about youth sports. I think it's not healthy. I mean, I'll start off the talk. I don't think our youth sports are currently healthy. And there are people that it really doesn't matter what facts, what stories, what realities you show them, they're going to do what they want to do. And they're going to go and they're going to play 150 games a year, and they're going to go every weekend, and that's just what they're going to do, and there's really nothing else. And I'm not trying to change those folks' minds. But what I've seen is I feel like there's a second category of parents who really don't want that life of just go. But they feel like I have no other option because I want my kid to shrink his community when he gets into high school and maybe have an opportunity to be on the baseball team, be on the volleyball team, make the soccer team, the basketball team. And so I feel like if I don't do all these things that everybody's doing, then my kid doesn't have a chance. And what I'm here to tell you, it's a myth, it's a lie. And I'm going to share stories, I'm going to share examples. My experience, I have, that's in the back there, there's my beautiful wise wife right there in the middle. On her left is my daughter. She ran cross country for 4 years at Amarillo High School, ran track, played sports growing up, and probably did it more what it's supposed to look like. She just had fun. She wasn't driven by it. She was high academic. She was Miss AHS. She was on the student council. She ran cross country, was there at 6:30 every morning, got home at 5:30 in the afternoon. She just tried sports growing up and wasn't crazy over the top and just had fun with it. My son, he's 19, she's 21. He was district MVP. He was all region. He was all state. He played basketball, football in middle school, baseball, shortstop, starting the best pitcher, all those type of things. So we had a pool of doing all the crazy stuff, right, in his group. And then we had her group is a little bit more about having fun. So I've seen it from a parent, and I've had to navigate it. And then I also have the luxury of seeing the end of it. Because, there's probably an hour conversation about the almighty scholarship and that everyone's chasing. And I'm not really going to go there just for the sake of time, but I'm happy to discuss it. I feel like there's more important things to talk about than just the scholarship. It's more about what you want your kid to do in high school. And He had an opportunity to play college basketball. He's playing college basketball, decided he wants to find some other things to do in his life. But I'm on the end of it in the high school. I lost my train of thought for a second. In high school, I see the end of it. I see it done well. I see it done bad. I see the kid who comes into my office, who was the stud in elementary and middle school, comes in my office his junior year and says, "Coach, can we talk?" I love my teammates. I love the program. I'm sick of basketball. I've done this in second grade, and I just want to go be a student. And so I've seen that. I've seen the family that's chased, and then they get to, quote, the highest level of competition, and the kid just doesn't want to do it anymore. And so I've seen it done well. I've seen it done wrong. We drew some lines in the sand. I'll talk about some of those things. And I'm just here to try to give you another perspective of, if you don't want to go, do, there are some alternatives without ruining your kids' chances. So let's jump into a couple things. Number one, I've kind of already mentioned it. You know, youth sports I thought was an awesome part of my growing up. Part. Now I feel like the tail's wagging the dog. And how much we sit down and eat dinner over the course of the week might be determined by youth sports. Where we go on vacation might be determined by youth sports. How much sleep we get at night might be determined by youth sports. How we talk to each other and our attitudes, because we're all exhausted and impatient, might be determined by youth sports. How much we go to church might be determined by youth sports. And so it seems now that that's the thing in the middle that's just driving so many things, and that's out of whack. And so how can we find that balance where we can still be involved in the things that we want our kids to be involved with, without it being the thing that's just the rudder driving the ship? Here's the first thing that I would encourage you to do. 18 years goes very, very fast. And I know everybody says it, and you may have even said it. My opinion is 0 to 5, age 0 to 5, took longer than 6 to 18. That was just my experience. Once my kids started school, it was over. And I was crying like a baby as I'm driving away and dropping them off at school. It goes crazy fast. And if they're involved in sports, then just times 10. Because you're going from this fall season to winter season to spring season, and then the summer, and then summer goes faster. And so it just goes so fast. So 18 years goes very fast. And so the question that you need to ask, that both of you need to sit down and talk about, is when my daughter's 18 years old and leaves this house, what do I want? What do we want? What is the goal? What do we want our child to have? Psalms 127. I'm too prideful to wear glasses, so I got to shine an extra light on it right here so to see. Verse 3 says, "Sons are a heritage from their Lord, children are a reward from Him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are sons born in one's youth." Like arrows in the hands of a warrior. Like you control the future with how you parent, how you lead. And yes, there are variables that are out there that are going to influence our kids. And you can have the greatest plan in the world, and then life happens, and you're going to have to go off course sometimes. I get that. But the reality is, my first advice is create a plan, be intentional with the plan. And if you don't create a plan, somebody's going to create a plan for you. The coaches are going to create a plan for you. And I'm not trying to get in anybody's pocket. And I'm not trying to talk about generalize or stereotype every single youth sports coach. But the reality is a lot of the advice you're getting are from people that profit off of your decision to say yes or no. And so their tournament needs you in it, because their tournament makes more money if you're in it. The coach, again, stereotyping, hopefully you don't have one like this, but there are some men out there who hate their jobs, and the biggest thrill they get is making out a lineup card for the 8-year-olds that week, and they want to go. And you may not want to. And so our advice is coming from people that may not, just because they have money, a money interest doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong, but I do think it's important to admit there's at least a bias. There's at least, if you're going to gain profit off of my decision to say yes, then we at least have to admit you have a bias in what you say. And so I've been the guy that I go into work, I'm pulling up my email, and I get an email from the select baseball commissioner of the league of the tournaments who sends it out to all 8,000 parents that signed up, and is like, if your son wants to play high school baseball, he has to play in this many games and get this many at bats, blah, blah, blah. And so I just hit reply, and I just, I'm pounding on the keyboard, and I hit delete. I thought I got bigger things to worry about, but I was like, quit speaking for me. As a high school, I'm not a high school baseball coach, but there are people that put our names on things. If you want to play in high school, you have to, and you don't. And so it really, and I don't get offended, but it kind of you are using people to gain money from by scaring them that if they don't play in these tournaments and get this many at bats and this and that, then you have no future, and that's just not true. And I'll get into a little bit more of that later. So if you don't make a plan, someone else will. Second thing, you better stick to it. Do you have to be flexible? Yes. Do things come up? Yes. But it's okay to make a plan. It's okay to stick with the plan. I'm trying to... Okay, this is my experience. This doesn't mean it has to be your experience. But I'm going to give you some examples of us trying to practice what we preach. He signed up, my son signed up we signed him up for his first year of baseball, 6-year-old baseball. And I get it. Let me back up for a second. One of the greatest joys that you're going to have as a parent is watching your kids do. Whether they're singing, whether they're playing an instrument, whether they're competing on an athletic field, there's nothing like it. That's a great, wonderful thing. So I want to make sure you don't hear what I'm not saying. It's a great thing to watch your kids do. And I remember his very first ball game, and as a dad, you got a game in 6 hours, but don't we want to put our uniform on and get the leggings right and make sure all this looks good and all that stuff? I get it. I understand that. I have the same feelings. But his first baseball team, he signs up. We get a call. It was back when there was actually kind of a draft and you pick people. We weren't quite in an all-out select yet. And the coach called and said, hey, we're going to practice on Wednesday nights and yada, 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 and started talking about everything else. And I interrupted him. I said, sir, I'm sorry, but we can't practice on Wednesday nights. I said, the church we were going to at the time really didn't have Sunday school. And so our kids' opportunities to be discipled and to be in a Sunday school class was on Wednesday nights. And so we went to church on Sundays and Wednesdays, and that's what we did. Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights, we were going. And so if by playing baseball, we were going to miss an entire 2 to 3 months of Wednesday nights. I said, sir, I'm sorry, but we can't practice on Wednesdays. And so he goes into, practice is more important than games, blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, I'm a coach. I don't disagree with any of that. And I'm not trying to change the rules. He's like, well, I got another son I coach on Mondays and Thursdays and this on Tuesdays and Fridays. And I said, I understand. I just need you to tell me who can I talk to get on a different team? Because we can't do this. And he was just like, he's silenced. Like no one's ever asked that. And I was like, is there commissioners? Sure enough, we get a hold of somebody. There was another team that had a children's pastor coaching the team, so they didn't practice on Wednesday, so they moved us over there. And we weren't going to do it. It's tournaments, in-town tournaments, and I'll talk about traveling later, but in-town tournaments, I told our coach, we did in basketball and baseball, I said, look, on Sunday mornings, again, I'm not trying to be legalistic, I'm not trying to be pompous, please don't, I hope you don't hear that. I'm just talking about my family and the rules that we decided on. And I went to the coach, I said, look, we won't play on Saturday mornings. My family's going to, what? Sunday mornings, good catch. We're not Jewish. We're not playing on Sunday mornings. So if there's a game, whatever, 1, 2 o'clock later, we'll be there. And whatever consequences come. Like if because we're not there on Sunday mornings and aren't as committed as the rest of them, if he doesn't need to play his normal shortstop, pitcher, bat fifth, whatever you got to do, I will take the consequences and you won't hear a peep from me. But we're not. And I played for a great man, and he said, no, I respect that. And everybody just that was what we did. We never played on Sunday mornings. And basketball, same. We didn't play a ton of basketball, talk about that. But that was kind of our rule, and we held by it. And people will tell you can't do that. If you're not going to be at these games, you can't. And you know, it worked out fine. It worked out fine. It's doable. It's doable. So I would say make a plan, whatever y'all decide, and then decide how you're going to stick to a plan. We wanted our kids, again, I don't want to be legalistic, but we wanted our kids to make church a priority. And we wanted them to never ask the question in our house, are we going to church today? We wanted them just to understand this is what we do. That doesn't make us better Christians. That doesn't make us more holy than thou. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving you what we decided to do as a family. Next thing I would say, so make a plan. Stick to the plan. Along those lines, it's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. It's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. So as your kid, there are a couple of things I talk about in leadership and coaching that I think relates to this discussion. It's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. We are what we emphasize. And so we can talk about these things as much as we want to, but what do we prioritize? What lines are we willing to cross? And when you cross them, then you just erase them and form another line. But I don't think that a lot of parents have that different of a mission statement or whatever you want to call it. If I said, what do you want your kids to be like when we were 18? I think a lot of us would say the same thing. I think if you went out into the lost world, other than the whole follower of Christ statement, you would probably hear a lot. I want to be a good kid. School's important. School's important. Do you miss Mondays because you got in at midnight on a tournament and the kids are tired? Do you leave early on Fridays so you can get to the hotel early? Again, I don't want you to hear anything that I'm not saying. I don't want to ever come off as judgy or harsh or saying these things that decisions we have to make. But what is important? Would you play a tournament that started at midnight, was a 24-hour tournament, and your game was at midnight, 3 a.m. and 6 a.m.? Would you sign up for that tournament? No. Why? Because we're going to sleep. We got to sleep. We prioritize certain things. Would you sign up for a tournament? When I talked about this about 6-7 years ago in Wisconsin, and I asked this question, and I wonder today if it would be answered the same. But I was like, would you play in a tournament that was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday during the middle of the week during school and miss school those days? And I, no. I know parents, yes. School is what it is. And maybe that's our fault as educators. Maybe we're not doing a good enough job to make sure that kid, if he misses a day, then he's behind. And I'm not passing blame that maybe we shouldn't be better in schools or this and that. You get the point. There are certain lines that we won't cross. And so what are your lines? That's simply what I meant. What are your lines? What are your boundaries that y'all want to decide as a family? We're going to do these things, not do these things, and then stick with it. Matthew 6:21 talks about where your treasure is, your heart is also. And so we can talk about these things. We want school to be important, and we want church to be important, and we want relationships to be important. But you are what you emphasize. And if you're emphasizing ball, you might have a good ball player. Okay? There's no guarantee. I'll get to some of those later. There's no guarantee if all you do is ball that you're going to have a player, a stud, when it's all said and done. But do you want anything else? What do you want the relationships to be like? Do you want them to be able to go into a room and connect with different people? Or do you want them to walk in and find the table where we just talk about what we talk about? We talk about sports, and we talk about, I guess I'm talking more from coaching boys' perspective, inappropriate conversations about teenage girls and everything else that might happen at that table? Or do you want them to be able to have a faith, to be bold in their faith? Do you want them to be able to have a conversation about current events? Do you want them to be educated? And there's a difference in being intelligent and being educated. So I guess I should point that out. What do you want? What do you want when it's all said and done? Talk to them about what they like. Talk to them about what they like. When he was 9 years old, we're walking off base, and I've already told you, I was very protective. We played probably less than 5 AAU tournaments in his entire life. AAU is kind of the select version of basketball that takes place outside the basketball season. He probably played less than 5 in his entire life. And probably most of those came in high school when the team was going off and doing something. Now, did he have a gym that he could go to every single day after school and get dropped off at? Yes. Just like there's a goal at the driveway too. But I was very protective in how much our kids played in youth sports, because at some point in high school, the older you go, the more of a grind it becomes. I had a player that played at Villanova, now at Kansas State, making more money than anybody in this room with NIL deals, and he says, "Coach, the most fun I ever had playing basketball was at Amarillo High." And why? Because it's a business at the college level. And then if you make pros, and I'm not talking about pros in college because those are so minute in the number of people, but it becomes an ultra business. And so every level you go up, it becomes more serious. So when your son or daughter gets into high school, they're going to have to do things they don't want to do. They're going to have to make commitments to things that are hard, that are difficult, that are challenging, that are outside their comfort zone. And so when it comes time to grind, have you grinded it out of them? I don't know how many lifelong Cougars we have. Anybody remember Justin Snow? He's my age. Played for the Colts for like 12 years. So we go to our 20-year reunion. I'm like, "Man, what are you doing?" I knew he was done playing the Colts. He's like, "I'm retired." I was like, "Well, I know you're retired." Like, "No, I'm retired. Like 70-year-olds retired." You know, like he did well with his money and invested it. And so like he takes the kids to school, goes and gets a workout in with the wife. You know, like dude's retired. I'm 38, like what? And so we started talking about this subject, and he's going, "Man, I go to the park and I'll do some things." And he goes, there's this guy, and he's got his 9-year-old son, and they're doing drills that I did with the Colts. Like the 9-year-old's out there doing NFL drills, running ladders and doing all these different things. He's like, "Kid's 9. You got to be at the park playing sandlot football and riding bikes and doing those type of things." And there comes a time when it becomes a grind. And if you grind them when they're young, when it's supposed to be fun, then all of a sudden when it comes time to grind, I'm good. I've done this. I want the fun part. And so understand that part of it. What do they like? So I got off track. I do that. So he's 9 years old. We're walking off the baseball field for his last game of the year, his 9-year-old year. And me and him are walking in the parking lot, and he says, "Dad, I don't think I want to play baseball anymore." And I could see, I wasn't shocked. Like I could tell, you know. "Hey, we got a game tonight." You know, so you give me hey, I get it. You know, why? It's not fun, blah, blah, blah. So I said, "Hey, I'm okay with that." Now, I do want to ask a question. We were in our local sporting goods store the other day, and you were going up and looking at bats and talking to me about wanting to get a new bat and this and that. Like, if you're not playing baseball, why am I looking at buying you a new bat? He's like, "No, I want to still play baseball, Dad. I want to go to the park with you and hit balls. I want to go in the street and play Ranger games," something that we used to do because we're big Ranger fans. He goes, I want to do that. I'm just tired of like playing all these games." And okay, well, we're slowing this thing down. So that was the plan. I had a buddy. He's an Abilene guy, Drew Perkins. He's an Eagle. We're still friends, though, even though he was an Eagle. And we would talk about this. He's like, "Man, if Coop wants to come play with us this next year," because we play at the Y, it's $25. They get a hat and a hat. And so it came time. I was like, "Hey, Cannon's playing with you." He said, "Yeah, I'll play." And we played in the Y. And everybody's playing select. And we won every game like 33-4. And he pitched. And it was like a month in the season before somebody hit the ball. Not got a hit the ball off of it. And he had a blast. And it was hard to watch. But he had fun. And the next year, the old coach, our buddy, called and was like, "Hey, I got a shortstop spot open and a guy on the mound if he wants to come play." So he just, after a year away from it, he decided he wanted to go back and play with his other team. And so we went back as 11-year-olds, and guess what? All the things, can't do that. You'll get behind. You'll get past. He was still the best pitcher. He was still the shortstop for a reason. Like, we still did baseball. We still played catch. I took my old knees and sat in a lawn chair, and he threw pitch to me, and we did those things. And the other thing I'd like to bring up is like this is kind of one of my arguments. Like, think about when you go out of town to play. We'll talk baseball. We could talk basketball. Let's talk baseball for a second because I'm talking about baseball. What do you get? 3 bats a game? 4 bats a game? And you play what in a weekend? 5 games? 6 games? So your son's going to get, what is that? 6 times 3, 18 at bats? How many pitches you seen at bat? 3, 4, 5? So you're getting out of the weekend 2.5 days committed, hotel bill, eating out, gas, all that stuff. You spent all that for what? 37 pitches? And we can go to the park and we get 37 pitches in 10 minutes. We can get 150 pitches, get a milkshake on the way home, and then go do whatever we want to do at the house. Like, how much behind are you really going to get? How much behind are you? Now, if you're sitting at the house eating Doritos and playing Xbox or whatever we have now, I hadn't played NCAA 25. He got the game here recently, so I haven't gotten to play with that. But I mean, if you're not doing anything, then yeah, you're going to get passed. But like all this other stuff is not the be all end all. I mentioned priorities. I beat that dead horse. Let's move on. Let's talk about faith in sports. Faith in sports. Here's my advice. Play whatever you play as hard as you can. Just play hard. Have a great attitude. Be the most coachable kid. Be the best. Get your kids to be the most encouraging kids with their teammates. When they strike out, when they turn the ball over, when they get scored on, hustle to the next play. Win people with your attitude and how you play. And all of a sudden, all the other parents and all the other kids, because we got the cliques that take place, but at some point we start to notice over time, that one's different. And the kids like that one because whenever I don't feel good about myself because I just failed at the sport, they're the one that just kind of gives me high fives, says keep my head up. They have a great, they always play hard. They never whine about the calls. Like, let your faith shine first through, my opinion, your effort and your attitude. So that was always my thing, Did you play hard? Did you listen to your coach? Did you have a great attitude? Were you a great teammate today? Because you can control all those things. Then all of a sudden somebody goes, well, what's different about you? And then all of a sudden you invite them to Wednesday night stuff, Sunday morning stuff, Sunday night stuff, Disciple Now, whatever it is. And all of a sudden they want to go with you because they saw something was different about you. So I would say stand out with your effort. Be humble. I think humility is one of the most attractive things a person has. And so teach your kids to be humble. Teach your kids to be humble in sports. Helps people to know why you're different. All right, I titled this Bad Ideas, and this is my opinion. You can disagree with it, but here's 6 things I wrote down that I just said, from my shoes, I don't think these are great ideas. I don't think year-round, the same sport year-round is a good decision health-wise. If you look at any medical research, like, running on wood for 12 months out of the year is not good for your knees, your ankles. Spiking a volleyball, throwing a baseball for 12 straight months is not a motion that's good for your body. So play different sports, play on different surfaces. It's good for your physical health and dadgum, your mental, your emotional. There's so many other positives that come just changing things up. I was talking to a guy the other day, and his son will be a sophomore, and he plays basketball and baseball, and he's like, I don't know which one's his favorite. He just loves which one he's doing. I was like, that's perfect. Love the sport you're doing at the time that you're doing it. That's your favorite sport, and then go to the next one and make that your favorite sport. Try different things. Try different things. Traveling all the time, I don't think is a good idea. But we got to get competition. Play up. If you're dominating the 9-year-old scene in Abilene, then play against the 10 or 11-year-olds. Play up. You don't have to go. Dallas-Fort Worth is not the be-all, end-all. Like, you don't have to travel every weekend. We got I ain't trying to get any soccer parents in here. Man, we got some people in Amarillo. I don't know if they're this way in Abilene. They go 3 out of 4 weekends to play in a Dallas league. League, not like a tournament. Like, they're in the league, and they go every 3 out of 4 weekends. And I'm like, that would drive. I couldn't do it. Like, you don't. And I'm not saying I don't know all the logic, but I was talking to one guy. He's like, well, that's where the scouts are. Your kid's 8. Ain't no. And we laugh, but I'm not lying. I was talking to a football coach whose son was 9, and they were going through the schedule of the season, and he told the 9-year-olds in basketball or baseball, it may have been basketball. There's a showcase in Florida, and we go to Florida, and your kid will get ranked. I coached in college for 1 year. I have some of my best friends are college coaches. They would laugh if what are you looking at what's the 9-year-old group look like? What's the 20-33 group look like? They ain't watching you. They ain't watching you. So, like, you don't have to go all the time. So I don't know how much you follow basketball, but mentioned the kid that played at Villanova. And I had 2 other kids. One of them is playing at Abilene Christian, Cade Hornecker. Go watch the Wildcats. He's 7 foot tall. He's got long hair. He's the greatest kid in the world. So go watch the Wildcats and introduce yourself, and he's an awesome kid. But he's a Division I kid. I had another kid that went to UT Arlington. All 3 of them were in the group. And they got hit by every AAU vulture that exists. Like, my email, my phone rang. My assistant coach was their dad, was Brendan's dad. He got hit up all the time. We would play during the season, we'd go to Dallas 2 or 3 times for a tournament during the season, and the game would be over, and these dudes would flock to courts. Like, man, who you playing with in this AAU, this and that? And Benji was like, my assistant, their dad was like, we're not playing with y'all in AAU because we're not going to Dallas every weekend. You know, it's either a tournament or drive to Dallas to practice. And they're like, you can't do it that way. You won't get recruited. And they're like, well, Baylor was in our gym last week, and then the week before that, OU was in our gym, and Oklahoma State's coming next week. I think we're going to be all right. But they told us you can't do it that way. And they're like, we'll ghost play. Like, you have your team, and we'll show up and we'll play in the 2 tournaments that we want to play in, but we're not going to commit to all those. You can't do that. Guess who was calling about 2 months later? Y'all want to ghost play with us this weekend? Like, you'll be amazed at all the things you're told you can't do that you can do. Don't outsource, dads, don't outsource playing with your kids. I don't do lessons, right? Number one, I just think it's a conflict of interest for me, right? If you're paying me in Amarillo to do lessons, then your kid's not good enough to make the team, like, you're going, what the heck did I pay you for all these years? And then if you do make the team, then all the other parents are going, is he good enough? Is that prior relationships? I think it's a conflict of interest. That's one reason I don't do it. Another reason I just don't want to do it, but I did it. The last time I did it, there was this lady in Amarillo emailed me, said, my grandson lives in California, and he comes and spends a month with us in the summer, and he misses out on basketball stuff. Would you do some lessons with him? I'll pay you, whatever. Sure. And so I'm doing lessons with him, and I realized something from myself while I was doing the lessons. I felt, because this guy was paying me, that I had to constantly give him information. Right? Constantly had to give him information. Get your elbow in. Where's your release point? Where's this and that? And like, if you've ever played sports, it's hard to you can't think and play sports. You got to react in sports. You can't think. Thinking's done before it ever happens. But once it's time to go, it's a reaction thing. It's not a thinking thing. And so I remember in high school we had a great baseball mind that was coaching at our bullpen session. He was constantly giving me information, and my buddies that were older told me, said, you better do it exactly like he says, because you got to do it. So I'm pitching, and I remember like once a bullpen session, I would drop the ball. Like I'd go to pitch it, and the ball would just fall out of my hands. In the first couple of days, it's funny, and after a while, he kind of started getting mad, like, why you keep dropping the ball? And what I wanted to say, I wasn't. But what I want to say is because I'm thinking about where my hands are supposed to be, where my feet's supposed to be, where's my balance point. Like I'm thinking about everything except throwing the it just fell out of my hand because I had so many things going on in my head. And so it's like, if we don't go and get some guy, get him constant information overload, then we're falling behind. Like play with your kid. My opinion, you can disagree. Like he doesn't need to be going to private lessons when he's in his single digits. There's nothing you can't, like go to practice and watch what the coach says and then just tell him those things. Like he doesn't need 19 things. He needs one thing a session that he can improve on. Keep your eye on the ball. Get your elbow in, right? And so just don't outsource playing with your kids. My favorite times in sports was playing Ranger games with him. Do we want to color? Like those are your memories you're going to remember, not dropping them off at the local AAU guy and letting him train him for an hour. And I'll stop before I get myself in trouble. I don't want to criticize people, but it's just, dads, you can do it. Moms, you can do it. Like, the best 7th grader in town, the best 7th grade basketball player in town is a kid named Monty Summers. And I say that because he comes to my camp every year and he's the best 7th grader here. And I ain't going to be arrogant, but if he's the best 7th grader at my camp, he's the best 7th grader at my beloved Cooper Cougars camp. And so he would come to camp and I would give him information and Meredith would ask me questions and she's like, well, what drills? I was like, do not. He's like, what, 8, 9, 7 at this time. What drills do I do? I don't do drills with him. You'll go suck the love out of the game. He's 7. I said, play one-on-one with him in the driveway. And I said, he wants to go right. He don't want to go left. So this is what you do as mom. You guard him right here. And you make him, and he won't. And you just do this. And if he wants to go left, he's going to get an easy bucket. But he's want to go right. And so I told him that. He comes back the next year. He's at the 4th grade basket. We're telling kids, try to shoot with your right and left hand. And guess who's the only kid that can shoot a left-hand layup? And then he comes the next year. Like, you don't need a pro to teach your kid how to get better at sports. Dads, play with your kids. Moms, play with your kids. Plain. I don't know if anybody watches much in the NBA, but some of the best players, Luka Doncic, how do you say his name? Doncic. I just went blank. The Serbian dude. Help me, Coop. Jokic. Joel Embiid. Giannis. Won't even try to say the Greek freak. Those aren't American-born players. And they're some of the best players in the league. Like they're the last 5 MVPs have come from these guys that didn't grow up playing basketball in America. And so in the basketball world, we've been understanding that for years because there's a different model. In Europe, they practice a lot more than they play. They practice like 80% of the time and they play like 20% of the time. What do we do in America? In any sport? Play. And so playing all the time, I kind of already alluded to it. Just think about a basketball game. What am I going to shoot the ball 5 times in a game if I'm an average player? Maybe. I play 5 games. I got 25 shots. If we went down to the gym right now, how long would it take you to get 25 shots up? You get what I'm saying. And so Europe, the rest of the world has this practice first, teach the fundamentals motto. In America, we've done play. Let's see if I can wrap another one up in here. Focus on winning versus development. So not only is it play, it's also win. And so what's the solution? So I don't want to be, I put that time on just so I could open up for questions if you had some, so that's why my alarm just went off. When we played back in the good old days, right, there was a draft league. And the coaches drafted you, right? Ask Gary Miller and my uncle about drafting. He coached my dad. Our dad passed away, and he coached one of my teams, and so he has some story about me not touching a pitch in tryouts, and he had to draft me. But that's, if you know Gary, he'll rag on me. You can ask him questions. But you had this draft league, and so you everybody got a really good player, and everybody got some average players, and everybody got some of the really bad players. And then you just tried to make them better. That's what I got to do, right? If we're not good enough, we got to go to the drawing board and we got to figure it out. And we got to spend the off season trying to become better at whatever we're not good at. But what's happened with club sports a lot of times is what happens when you lose. What's the solution? I just want to see if you know what seems to be the solution when your club team is losing. Get better players. We drop the worst three. And we go get the other team's best three. That ain't developing. You grow, get better at youth sports. The goal of youth sports. I tell the parents at camp every year, I'm sure they don't listen to me, in our 1st grade through 6th grade camp, fun and fundamentals. That's it. Is the game fun, and are you teaching them fundamentals? If you're doing those two things, that's a very successful season. If they're having fun, what are they going to want to do? Play more, practice more, right? And then, are you learning anything? Because here's the other thing that we don't quite see when we're just in the bubble of youth sports. Who are the best players? Who are the best soccer players, baseball players, basketball players? Who are the best ones? The biggest and the fastest, right? Well, there are kids that your son or daughter plays against that might be literally a foot taller than literally a foot. I've done this 25 years. I've never played against a kid that was 1 foot taller than everybody on my team. We played against a 7'4" guy once, but we had 3'6'5" guys. 11 inches, but not 12. The speed, eventually, you talking about coaching. You coached at Cooper, right? Football, right? What's the little kid Pop Warner play? Give it to your fastest guy, and where's he go? Sideline, and that way. How many times can y'all just line up and just give it to your best dude and say, run to the sidelines and then outrun everybody? It don't happen. Eventually, we all even out. Even the slow, fat linemen are running a 5'3", right? So that 4'5" isn't quite the... So eventually that stuff evens out. So they have to learn the game. In basketball, put the ball in both hands, right? Learn how to play the game. Fundamentals. Some closing thoughts, and then I'll just kind of open it up if you have any questions. All right? My first thought, your son's identity is your top priority. When it comes to everything that your son's idea, I have a father-son camp, and I'm used to talking to the dads, and so we got some daughters in here. Your child's identity should be one of your number one priorities, right? How hard is it you stop playing the game of basketball? How hard was it when you stopped playing? Is it to walk in the room and not see yourself as an athlete? Kind of hard, right? And we worked like crazy to try to make sure, and I've even tried to, as he's made the decision to stop playing and trying to figure out what he wants to do, like, you are a chosen, beloved child of the one powerful God that made all this stuff, and He still chose you. Like, that ought to be the one thing that we see ourselves in. But as a guy, as a man, too often I find my identity in what? Work, my job. Moms may find it in your kids or your job. Like, we find our identities in what we do. We should know the struggle, because I'm 48 years old, and sometimes I lose sight of who I am, and I get caught up in what I do. So if I'm at 48 that know all the answers, how's my 8-year-old going to deal with this? How's my 18-year-old going to deal with this? When they're at some point, the ball stops bouncing. And somebody's going to tell you you can't play this game anymore. So when they walk away, are they lost? They don't know who they are. Your number one priority is to create the correct identity. Romans 12:2 talks about don't conform to the world. We have conformed to the culture of whatever the world wants youth sports to look like. The church is conforming to the world. Our families are conforming to the world, and we don't want to look different. But we are called, and if we're going to walk this life, we're not supposed to look like the rest of the world. Now, obviously, there's a discussion there, and we don't walk judgy versus loving, and that's a long discussion, this and that. I don't hear what I'm not saying, but you get the idea. If we're just going to follow what everybody else does, why are we even reading this? There's probably a manual that the world has that would be a lot easier to follow. Find like-minded families. If you want to do it different, chances are you're just like I just said, you're going to look different. Can you find like-minded families? Our baseball coach, when the boys were going to be 8, was going around and came up to us and said, look, I want to put together a team, because at this point we weren't playing select, of just good boys and good families and maybe some kids that haven't had that, but they can see it, it can be modeled, and I want to have something, and that was kind of his plan. And so me and one of my buddies were standing there while he's talking to us, and our kids are going to be 8, and we're like, we're not traveling. Okay, well maybe, so we got competition, we're like, at 8, we're not going to Dallas-Fort Worth at 8. And we would go to the meetings, and guess what, parents, every meeting we had before the year started, guess what, there were a couple parents that suggested, can we start going to some out-of-town tournaments? And if there weren't other people in the room, he's like, I'm not going. Then guess what we would have been doing? Going to out-of-town tournaments. And so we found people that wanted to kind of, look, we'll play, but we're not going to do what the Dragons are doing. And what were the other teams' names? Like all those teams. We're not doing that. Find like-minded people that would like to do it how you do it. Talent still matters. As a coach, that's like against my oath, right? Hard work. But like if you're 5, Dad, if you're 5'6", like I had some parents come in the office once to talk about their son. Sorry, get on toes. They wanted to talk about their son in college basketball, and I was helping them. I invited them. Like they had these questions, and they were getting all these emails. You may not be old enough yet to start getting this when your kids start school. Meredith called me once, like, "Hey, this one group says if I check this box and they'll help us." Nope, don't do that. And so, should we go to this? And I was like, that's a money grab. Though you're not that I know those folks. They don't do anything. Okay, you want, come talk. So we come in. Dad walks in. Dad's 5'6". Mom's like 4'11". And I was gentle. And kid can play. Like he's not bad. He's a good player. Maybe soccer should be your wheelhouse. I said, look, we just need to understand something. Duke's not coming. Kentucky's not coming. North Carolina's not coming. I think your son, you want my opinion? I think your son's probably a Division III player. And there's not athletic scholarships at the Division III. That's all academic, so make sure you're hitting the books. His highest ceiling, in my opinion, would be Division II. All right, so, and they're fairly intelligent. It's hard to say something about parents, right? How smart. No, they're pretty intelligent. We get that. We understand that. But like talent still matters. And at some point, you can chase the almighty scholarship, but it's probably not going to happen. Talent still matters. So, values from sports are the most important thing. Should be the most important thing to us as Christian families. Values from sports should be the most important things to us as Christian families. Some examples: effort. I've already talked about teamwork, selflessness, commitment to the process. Like those are the best things you can get from youth sports. Those are the best things that you can get from youth sports. Not did you win, not You know, like it's hard. You know, you're out there and you're watching, you're like, oh, he just made an error. He's probably not going to start for the Wiley Bulldogs. Well, he's 7. Let's let this thing play out a little bit. It's hard to not get caught up. But what are they gleaning from it? What are they gleaning from it? I know our year's been successful off one reason. When that last game ends, this gets me sometimes. When that last game ends, what is the locker room like? And when our season ends, we got kids that are weeping. I'm not talking about tears going down their eyes. I'm talking about weeping. And hugging each other and going, man, I love you. Because of the process that went along, not because we won the last game. We've never won the last game. And so we want this thing to hurt when it ends. I had some new freshman coaches there, football guys, and they were new to our staff. And we lose in the third round of the playoffs one year. And I'm in there and I'm talking to guys. I mean, they're bawling and laying on the floor. And I look up and one of my assistants has his phone out. I'm like, what the heck? And so afterwards he goes, hey, I hope that was all right. Like, I needed our football guys to see what the locker room should look like at the end of the season. He said, we got too many guys. It's like, whatever, it's over. If you drain it when they're this age, they ain't having that feeling when it's over. Whew. I can be a kid now. I'm glad that's over. That was a kick in the teeth for the last 12 years. Or do you want it to hurt a little bit when it's over because they loved it so much? Last thing I'll say, and I said it, is you'll be surprised at how wrong you can't do it that way turns out to be. Do it how you want to do it. But don't play keeping up with the Joneses. I teach a leadership class, and I don't know how we got off on this one day, but we started talking. I said, how many of your parents have ever got on you for doing something dumb that your friends did? You know, and all the hands up, you know, what? Well, Joey did it, you know. If Joey jumped off a cliff, would you jump off of a cliff? And, you know, no, we all say that as parents. And I was like, but how many parents are that way? We're doing this because all the other parents are doing it. We're doing this because all the other kids are doing it. If you want to do it, do it. It's your family. It's your house. Run it how you want to run it. But don't let the excuse be, well, it's how everybody else is. We tell our kids don't be that way. We can't be that way either. You'll be so surprised that you can't do it that way, how wrong that actually is. I think we got like 3 minutes, 2 minutes now. We need to shut it down. I assume. Any questions? How are we doing this, boss?
Questions. The next one's not until 3:15. That makes you get a little bit of a break. So if this goes over like 5 minutes, that's fine. If you just have questions. So
if you're tired of this and want to leave, go. But if you got any questions. If you got questions you want to talk